Zach. Just engaging in a bit of online discussion on the Facebook, and got me thinking about some things, specifically about the way people debate. I've done a video about debating on this channel before. This one's a little different. I find so many people are unable to have really reasonable based conversations. It's so difficult nowadays, especially on the internet, where there's a lot of knee-jerk gut reactions that are very emotional based. There's very few people online. I don't care what topic, or rather what belief system we're discussing here, and I'm talking about health belief systems or philosophical, religious, whatever belief system or ideology we're talking about. In every group, there's going to be people who don't know how to discuss things in a way that follows a regimented and what we could call scientific way of thinking, or a logical, reasonable-based way of thinking. I just wanted to make this to encourage people to kind of adhere to those standards, because there's so much personal attacks. There's so many ad hominems, which is just a fancy way of saying personal attacks, that take place. And it always shocks me, because being an INTJ, that's a personality test thing that I generally score pretty high on. By the way, INTJ is sort of a very non-emotionally charged, very reasonable, logic-based type of way of thinking. I'm not saying everyone should be INTJs in the world, but I think a lot of people could learn from us in the ways of how to discuss any topic, how to approach any kind of discussion, whether it's in person or on the comments of any social media site. And yeah, when anyone resorts to personal attacks, like calling names, anything you would normally attribute to someone on a schoolyard playground, then that's a sign that they're not that confident in their stance. What I found is that people who do this, excuse me, I just finished eating, so I'm having a little burp there. But yeah, people who generally do this don't have the grasp on their stance as well, or as well as they could. And so to almost like get the validation that they're winning the debate, or have the right philosophy, to prove that to themselves, but also people around them that happen to be watching this go down, they have to use the personal attacks to kind of push, to make up for the lack of evidence that their stance has, to push their belief system in the debate. So if someone, say we were debating omnivorism versus veganism, and just because that's a common one I end up getting in debates about, I'm going to pretend that I have been, winning a debate with someone, and I'm the one that's for omnivorism, and the vegan is saying something along the lines of, you don't know what you're talking about, you're just eating dead animals, etc., as if that dismisses the argument. So that's another common tactic, the dismissiveness, personal attacks, dodging questions, or dodging comments, and sort of trying to say something else. Like, instead of actually answering the question, you might say something like, well, how come meat causes all these problems for the planet in factory farming? And meanwhile, they're just saying that as a point to counter your point, but it's not actually a point that's related to your point. So you might be arguing cholesterol doesn't cause harm to the body when taken in food form, and they're coming back with this thing about environmentalism. And yeah, that's a good point if we want to discuss that, but that's something different. You have to first answer the points that the other person is bringing up, and then give your evidence for your stance as to why you think that's wrong. And if it's a really formal discussion, you got to provide evidence for that and back it up with science. It's really a simple process. It's very much, a logical thinking process. It takes a certain amount of calmness and collectedness, and if you're deficient in something, is the only thing I can think of, this might cause some people to react in a way that's, what you'd call a knee-jerk reaction, causes them to be dismissive, have personal attacks, or use personal attacks, and just overall not be interested in engaging in any intelligent discussion that actually leads somewhere. So personally, a lot of people often see what I do online if I take a screenshot of a discussion I've been having, and they'll say something like, why am I wasting my time on this? And yes, I've spent many dozens of hours at some points having discussions with people, whether it's health related, gender issue related, or anything like this, and I always come out of it from any debate learning something, even if the person goes to that point of falling into the personal attack, non-logic based kind of way of discussing things. It becomes an argument. That's what it's really called. It's arguing. Arguing is not commonly putting things on the table and comparing sides like you'd almost see in a courtroom, or you'd see scientists doing in a medical journal. I mean, even the best of us do resort to those places at times. You see scientists sometimes in medical journals bad-mouthing each other because they disagree and they can't reach a conclusion, or they can't convince the other person of their stance, so they say, well, that person just bases stuff on pseudoscience, instead of just saying, well, I presented this study and it had this different conclusion, and perhaps this topic actually hasn't reached a conclusion, and that's why we're in this, to discuss things. But a real scientist, whether you're in health, you're an academic in philosophy, or any kind of social study, anything, someone that has that higher way of thinking, which is very regimented, and keeping the emotions out of it, which is an INTJ type of personality trait, they're going to be able to do that without resorting to that place. And if you ever sense yourself getting anxious or sort of adrenalized from something that's happening in a discussion, it's probably because you are too attached to your stance and you are resorting to those personal attacks, or you're letting personal attacks affect you. And I just wanted to sort of share those thoughts on that. If you want to see some of the stuff I sometimes take screenshots of, either on YouTube or in Facebook comments on pages and things like that, I have them on my Facebook profile. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you can see them. I'm going to eventually transfer all of those over to my ZakMartinKilgour Facebook page. You can see right here, you can find me on Twitter and Facebook. But in the links below, I'll also put it through to my Facebook page if you want to check out that photo album. The word escaped me there for a sec. But it's a photo album of different screenshots, and some are pretty funny. I think you'd have to be friends with me to see them, so you might have to friend request me on there. But actually, come to think of it, I'm just going to put them on the Facebook page, so you can click here. Well, that's not clickable, but you can go there, just write that link into your browser, and go check out those pictures if you want to sort of see the shenanigans I get up to online. Sometimes really funny things come of it. So with that, hope you guys are well, and I'll talk to you next time.